You know, if you try to work on asset liabilities, community liabilities, drug problem, crime, you can spend all your time and energy barking up that tree, and what you're really working on are symptoms. And so one of the things the community has to do is figure out what are the causes and what are the symptoms. Poor education is a cause. Crime is probably a symptom of poor education. But when you start doing asset mapping and you really get good at it, you see all those young, terrible teenagers as assets. And you see empty lots in your neighborhood as assets. We have a neighborhood here called Highland Park that has probably 200 vacant lots. And they were a real problem. People were throwing syringes on them, and absentee owners were letting garbage pile up on them, and weeds, and well, guess what? Now, it's the neighborhood that has the most buildable lots in the inner city. Because vacant lots can be liabilities, but they also can be assets. This whole asset, how do you use the young people? How do you use the elderly? How do you use shut-ins? How do you use the gymnasium in your local school? How do you use the computer center in your local school? All of these things are assets that you've got to figure out how you're going to use them. Well, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. Yes, Walter Cronkite called us the dirtiest town in the United States. But that was the tip of the iceberg. The real problem was that we had a defeatist attitude. We didn't think we could do anything. We had no real leadership at the civic level. Yeah, we had business owners and we had, those kind of things. We had governmental units. But we really didn't have any leadership at the community level. We had something called Chattanooga Venture. And it started around 1980, I would guess. I may be off by a few years. And it was a visioning process. We had a bunch of charrettes where people came together and talked about various topics. And you went down and saw the waterfront. Well, the waterfront was one of those topics. When those charrettes were being held, the waterfront was a series of abandoned buildings, 2 tire dealerships that were closed, a radiator company, and several other nondescript places. Now you go down there and it's astonishing. And so a lot of the young people we're talking about, and you got to understand, a lot of our focus is on young people because, one, we need the future leaders, and two is that's the kind of quality of life issues that make a community strong. When you see communities where every kid is just waiting till they graduate from high school to leave, I can tell you what the future of that community is. You look out in some of the Midwest and other cities where the population declines every year, and they go, oh gee, we're going to lose our hospital, we're going to lose the only car dealership, we're going to lose, well, those are all symptoms of something. It's fine to give them a free lot to build a house on, but if nobody wants to live there, you can't afford to build a house that you can't possibly be able to sell. And leadership is in a lot of different places. We don't have a leader. We have governmental leaders, we have business leaders, we have nonprofit leaders, we have neighborhood leaders, we have church leaders. When you start thinking about all the spheres of influence in a city, the media and the politics and all these things, there are leaders in every one of those spheres. And in Chattanooga, those leaders have pretty much all bought into the same deal, same vision. So when we need media coverage, buddy, we got media coverage. When we need churches to do something, In fact, we just had tornadoes down here 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And, when we needed churches to come out and fix meals or get chainsaw brigades together or whatever it is, it took one phone call. And buddy, we had more people willing to pick up chainsaws and go out and cut trees than you could ever imagine. And it's because everybody feels like this is a community where they own it, they have a stake in it, and it's their community. This isn't some place that they're living, waiting to go somewhere else. I mean, when I retire, I have no intention of leaving here. Now, let me tell you the role of the Community Foundation, because I think you'll find this interesting. Community Foundation, of course, is a public charity, and we're an umbrella organization that handles a lot of different funds. We have over 300 funds. But let me tell you how this fits into it. For example, Create Here was a virtual organization for years. I mean, virtual organization, they legally didn't exist. All their funding came through the Community Foundation. All of the spin-offs of Create Here basically have accounts here so that we can collect donations from corporations, individuals, foundations, wherever, to keep all that work going even after Create Here sunsets, or supernovas, as they say. So the Community Foundation also has project funds. You see all that artwork on the street? Mm-hmm. Virtually every piece of artwork you've seen in the last day and a half has been funded through the Community Foundation somehow. Huh. And all the trees that were planted, we've planted what, 1,700 trees downtown so far? Every tree has been paid for through the Community Foundation. Now that doesn't mean it's Community Foundation money. Well, legally it is. But what it means is we have a vehicle to accomplish all this. And I bet your town has a community foundation too. The problem is that most community foundations don't see them as an enabler of all these processes. They see themselves as pools of money, okay? Asset collectors. And you need charitable assets, don't get me wrong. I mean, you need endowment funds, you need all kinds of things, but there are more things that you can do than just accumulate assets. You can facilitate all these processes. You can also kind of divide your thinking on a community foundation between its financial role and its non-financial roles. We provide leadership in a lot of different areas. We consult a lot with nonprofits. We consult with, I'm sitting on the steering committee for the new Arts and Culture Plan. I'm sitting on the steering committee for the new Regional Growth Plan. We do a lot of those things and provide non-financial services to assist the communication, the facilitation of what I'm just calling administrative systems, getting things paid for. One of the big local companies gives out something called Promethean boards or whiteboards to schools. Well, it's kind of it's an application process. All that comes through here. I mean, there's just a lot of ways a community foundation can facilitate the very processes that you're talking about. That's what they've done. I mean, Main Street, which you visited yesterday, was not a good street. I mean, 10 years ago, you went to Main Street if you were looking for trouble. Now it's got public art, and it's got restaurants, nice restaurants, and it's got, various assorted shops, and it's got, a lot of young people who really believe in where they can take this city. And they're the ones that are going to take this city. The folks who did the evolution over the last 20 or 30 years in Chattanooga are all pretty much my age. And, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're all going to be retired. And it's going to be those folks that pick up the rein. And we realize it and we welcome it. I'm not going to die in this chair at 75. Okay? We understand it, and guess what? even if some of them aren't from around here, it's okay. You know, they still got brains. And the fastest growing section of our population right now is the 25 to 34-year-old college graduates. There's not a southern city that wouldn't like to be able to say that.